What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. But before we get all into the topic for today, I would love for you to do a few things. Hit the like button so that you can like this video. Hit the subscribe button in case you are already not subscribed to this channel, which you should be. Hit the share button and share this with all your friends, family, and whoever. Hit the bell icon so that you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. And then at the end of this video, I would love for you to leave me a comment. That way I can get back to it when I'm finished. For today's topic, I want to talk about whether or not you can be pro-black and date interracially. Now, this is a very controversial topic, and everybody has different opinions on it. But to me, I don't really think it's that hard to decipher. The reality is that, and this is the short answer, the reality is that you cannot be pro-black and date interracially at the same time. Those two things just don't mix, just by definition. And this is not to put any disrespect on somebody who is dating interracially who is black, whether it's a black woman or a black man. It's to just say that you are not pro-black. Now, let's talk about the definition of pro-black. Being pro-black means to make black people a priority. But if we're being more specific, it means that we are making black people a priority in every area of activity. And so when we're talking about interracially dating, what we're really talking about is the area of activity known as sex, which one could say relationships, but that ultimately breaks down to sex as well, too. Now, with that being said, you're not making black people a priority if you're dating interracially as a black person in that area of activity. So therefore, you cannot be pro-black just by that alone. There's some other nuances that we need to talk about as well, too, because I think a lot of times when people like me say that you cannot be pro-black and date somebody interracially, they assume that I mean that they're not black at all. And that is far from what I'm saying. If you are a foundational black American who is dating a white woman or a white man or whatever the case may be, or somebody who's even Asian or somebody who is Indian, then you are indeed still black. You still have a foundational black American lineage, but you're just not pro-black. And there's a difference between that, because being pro-black is an actual mindset. It's this idea that you want to be the example of somebody who puts black people first in every regard. You want to exemplify that for other people, especially children. You want to be able to show these different images, and you want to be able to bring awareness as to why we need to empower ourselves and why we're the only people that can empower ourselves. But by dating interracially, you're already making a statement when it comes to, what you think about the world, as far as the way that black people are treated in it, and as far as what black people need. And what I mean by that is when you date interracially, whether you're intending to do so or not, you're making the statement that it really doesn't matter who you date as long as somebody loves you. And you're not considering all the other factors that are very important, such as black people being a permanent economic underclass, people and someone culturally understanding you, because let's be real, as a black man, nobody is going to understand you like a black woman. Nobody is going to, and that's just a fact. So you're not taking all these things into consideration. In a way, you're saying it doesn't really matter that much, and you're more so giving into your taste. Now, I want to be clear, too. A lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't even find, white women or non-black women or whatever attractive. And I don't think that that's really true either. I think that if you are a masculine man, even as a black man, I'm just giving an example. If you're a masculine man as a black man, you're going to find any woman attractive for the most part. Now, everybody's different. Some people are like, hey, they're not my flavor at all, people who are not black. But some people might, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. Think about it. A lot of us would say people like Scarlett Johansson are attractive. Christina Hendricks, attractive. Kat Dennings, attractive. Most of the white women and non-black women on WWE, attractive. But the reality is that dating them or dating somebody who looks like them is totally different. It's a totally different ballgame. You just don't date somebody just because they're attractive. You have to factor in all of these other things. And culture and race is something that's very important to think about as well, too, especially when we're thinking about how we can create powerful images of black families and black family structures, especially when you look at media and they really don't, they're purposely not making it where you see a lot of black couples that are harmonious. You don't see a lot of black men and black women who are in harmonious relationships on TV. You see a lot of times they either have a cantankerous relationship or they throw away one of the black love interests so that they expose that black person is really in love with somebody who's non-black. They do that so much on television, and you've seen it before, where they'll have like a black man and a black woman, they'll put them together, and then the black woman like will be somebody they're not really interested in, or the black man might be somebody they're not really interested in, and they end up getting with somebody white, or they end up getting with somebody Asian, or they end up getting with somebody who is a white Hispanic. So you see that all the time, and I think they do that on purpose. Well, I know they do that on purpose. I don't think it. And I want to be clear. I want to be very clear with y'all when it comes to this whole idea that we need to be with other black people just from a cultural understanding. Me personally, I don't know about y'all, I don't just want to be with black women just because they culturally understand me. I don't want to be with black women just because they are economically, we are helping each other. And I don't want to be with black women just because of the fact that it creates an aesthetic. I also want to be with black women like it's my flavor because they are fine as hell. I love me some black women. First of all, I just have to say this, and my wife probably is watching this video and she's probably smiling as I'm saying this, but anyway, I love black women because they are beautiful. I love the way they look. I love the way they act. I even love the way they smell. I mean, y'all know it's true. Black women take very good care of themselves, you know, for the most part. And everybody, we got our ratchets and people like that, but for the most part, black women are the most beautiful thing that was ever created on this earth, and don't you ever forget it. So this is not even just about me saying that, hey, I just think that this is important culturally. I just think black women are fine as hell. I think y'all are fine as shit. And the reality is that's just something that just can't be overlooked. You totally outclass other races of women when it comes to looks in my eyes. It's just the truth. But anyway, going back. So my opinion when it comes to this whole pro-black and dating interracially thing is that if you were dating interracially, it's not that I don't support your relationship. So I want to make that very clear. And I don't necessarily even have a problem with you interracially dating, especially if you're dating somebody who actually cares about you as a person. The problem is that there's a lot of dangers, risk, and a lot of other factors that come into dating interracially that I think a lot of y'all also need to really understand as well too. For example, in a lot of these interracial relationships, a lot of these black people who are in it, whether it's a man or whether it's a woman, they end up getting killed. They end up, something really heinous ends up happening to them. Think about Lauren Smith Fields, who was killed. Now, she was bedwenching, but we'll get to that in a minute. She was killed dealing with a white dude. You had that, what's his name? Christian Obumseli, I think is how you say his name. He was kicking it with that white OnlyFans chick, and she was sitting there calling him nigga and stuff like that in text messages and whatnot. And then you recently, I think at the beginning of this month, had, I think her name is Sade Robinson, whose body, she's 19 years old, her body was found dismembered, and it was by this white dude who actually killed her. And I think this was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm saying all these things to say, there's a pattern there of black people getting with white people and then them either coming up missing or being killed or being dismembered, and then that white person either walking off scot-free or there being a white person present while doing the crime. Now, you don't necessarily see that as much with like black people on other black people. You don't see us dismembering people's bodies and putting them in the ocean or a lake or something like that. We typically don't do stuff like that, but you see it in a lot of these interracial relationships, and that's something that I think a lot of people have to, you know, really be careful of and be mindful of. So that's one thing to think about. The other thing to kind of think about too, again, is that a lot of times, even if it's not something that heinous or not something that intense or horrible, you also have to think about the whole idea of fetish size. When it comes to a lot of these interracial relationships, sometimes it ends up turning into a thing of fetishism. It's not even the idea that you as a black man or a black woman are liked because of your personality, you know, the things that you've conveyed and the ways that you have attracted someone based off of who you are and your being. They like you just for the simple idea that you're black. you know, and I think that that happens quite a bit. You know, it's something that's interesting. It's something that's different, you know, and I think that a lot of times that ends up happening with a lot of these interracial relationships. So they're not really liking you for you. They're liking you because you're black, and it's something that's different to try out. Now, in a lot of these cases, in a lot of these interracial relationships, there's this thing that goes on that I would call swirling. And I think that we need to define what that is, because there's a difference between interracial dating and swirling. Interracial dating is the simple idea of being black and dating somebody who is non-black, whether they're white, whether they're Asian, whether they're Indian or East Indian, whether they're white Hispanic, whatever they may be. Whereas swirling is using your relationship or your desires for this relationship to denigrate, disrespect, disenfranchise, or lessen the impact or the presence of black relationships. And that happens often. So what I mean by that is some people, I'm going to give you an example. Some people will literally date people interracially because they hate that person who's of the opposite sex within their same race. So, you know, you'll get a black woman who'll talk about how she's tired of black men, so she's going to date her a white man. And that's an example of what I mean by you're swirling, because you're denigrating other black people while desiring for white relationships. And then a lot of times too, I'm going to be totally honest with you, a lot of times too, I think that it shows a lot of times in the way that, you know, these black women or black men, the way that they communicate and talk about people of the opposite sex within that same race. And I think that is handled differently between black men and black women both. Black men typically do it because they literally are tired of the attitudes of black women, yet any type of woman can actually have an attitude, which is ridiculous to me. And then when it comes to the black women, a lot of times when they are swirling, it's usually one of two things. Usually they're swirling because they had a really bad black man. They're really attracted to black men primarily, but they had a really bad black man, so now that they went to the other side because they've basically been damaged from that relationship, or they're looking to try to get something out of that white dude who they're kicking with. It's usually one of those two things. And a lot of times when they are trying to get something out of that white dude, or trying to get, the kind of financial or hypergamous, whatever you want to call it, fulfillment that they need, a lot of times they denigrate black men in the process by saying a lot of times they're not able to provide that. So they're going to go to another race and see if they can, be able to get that. When it comes to black men, we don't necessarily, the ones of us who, are, swirling, we don't necessarily do that. I think a lot of times the big thing that I hear from black men is that, she has an attitude. So, I'm going to go after, non-black women. I'm going to go after a white woman or that type of thing because they're going to be more, submissive. And that's just, one, it's not true, and also two, you're going to run into all these other issues and factors and things like that you wouldn't experience with a black woman. Instead of just getting a black woman who likes you for you, because there's a ton of them out there. There's a lot of good sisters out there, and we all know. And same thing with black men. I just think too, even with black men, I think it's less acceptable. And so I want to be clear too, and now I want to be fair. It's less acceptable for black men to denigrate black women and say that they don't want to date them because they're black. But when black women say it, it's usually a joke, and it's usually seen as funny, and it's usually kind of brushed off for the most part. And it's seen as something that's okay and understandable and respectful, especially if they say something else that seems, very true, or they relate to a black woman who has been scorned by whatever black man that she's been dealing with. So I think that it goes both ways. I think it's wrong either way to denigrate black people, so black men or black women, because of your experience, instead of getting a black man or a black woman who is better for you or more well equipped for you. I just wanted to make the point that I think that when black women swirl, it's actually justified quite a bit. When black men swirl, it's never justified. So I think that we need to also be clear that that is also an issue as well too. And then there's also bed winching or bed bucking in the case of a black man or a black woman who is swirling. So let me tell you what bed winching or bed bucking is. That's when somebody is going out of their way to try to get some type of gain by getting in bed with somebody who is non-black, typically white. And what I mean by that is usually the denigration and all that comes, but there's like something that they're trying to earn, you know, in the process of basically denigrating somebody of their same race, of the opposite sex. I find that a lot of black women do that, especially in those like political positions. They'll denigrate a lot of like black men and say a lot of greasy things about them and stuff like that, or they'll like have like low-key ways that they denigrate us, or they'll just sell out black society totally, and then they'll try to, you know, get in good with like white people. Now, sometimes sex is involved in that, sometimes it's not, but the reality is that it's all about like divesting from black people, you know, whoever it is of that opposite sex, in order to get a gain. So if there may be sex involved, there may not be, but it could be, again, something that's related to something political where, you know, sex may or may not be involved, or it could be a relationship aspect where, again, you're a black woman, you're trying to get something from this white man who you're dealing with, and in the process you're denigrating black men. So that's an example of like bed wenching. And that's what I mean by that. Now, when it comes to interracial dating, I want to make it clear, I have no issues with it when it comes to, if that's what you want to do and it makes you happy and you're with somebody who actually likes you or actually loves you. But I personally don't recommend it, especially to black people who care to be pro-black. I think that we all should be pro-black. I'm going to be totally honest with you. But I think that you can't interracially date and also be pro-black at the same time. I truly just don't believe that it's possible. But anyway, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you all enjoy what I had to say. There's going to be probably more to come on this topic and more to talk about. But other than that, I hope y'all have a great rest of y'all's day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.